everyone. So I am here today with my sister Addison. Hi. Now, if you watched my Draw Your Life video, you'll know that Addison started her life as a little boy named Adam, and she transitioned 19 months ago, and she is now living her life as a woman. So I thought it would be neat to interview her and talk about the process that she went through. I thought it would be informative for other people. Plus, you know, girl wants to know. So, okay, I'm going to start with, when did you know you were a girl trapped in a boy's body? When did that actually occur to you?
Honestly, it was the kind of thing I didn't really even let myself ask these questions until I ended up in California. So
Really?
I've always
That
known I was kind of different, and I always knew I didn't really fit being what I was supposed to be, but I didn't know what the alternative was. And I didn't know that there was an alternative, and I didn't know that the alternative was actually a good alternative.
Interesting.
And it wasn't until I got to California and I realized, hey, this is really accepted out here, and like, hey, maybe this is something you should think about.
Maybe this is something you should think about. Well, when we were kids, I'm 6 years older than her, and we have a sister in between us. And we used to dress her up all the time when we were kids, because, you know, two older sisters, you know, and she was always very in tune to women. She always was very empathetic and understanding about anything that we were going through, and really paid attention to the girly things. Like, this was the only guy you could have walked up to that knew about menstrual cycles, that knew about all of that stuff.
Played with Barbies, dressed up, makeup.
Had a baby doll as a kid, and his name was Buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And we called him Buddy, and I call my kids Buddy. So if you ever hear me call my kids Bud, that's where it came from, because Adam was always Buddy. And, you know, that transcends gender for me, too, because I call my girls Buddy. But,
Transcend.
Transcend. I didn't do that on purpose. It was one of my dumb laughs. Outtakes.
Excellent.
So
that's actually pretty funny. So looking back on it, and like the conversations I've had with therapists and stuff like that, is I really had a little girl's childhood.
It's true.
It wasn't until I got into school and I realized that I was supposed to be doing different things that I really focused on boy
things, yes. Because I think it was kindergarten or first grade when you started doing soccer and Boy Scouts and things like that. Mm-hmm. All the times before that, she just played what we played, you know? So we played a lot of house and school and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And dress up, lots of dress up.
Tons of dress up.
Lots of makeup, lots of fingernails, you know?
I swear to God, I wore that red dress for a week without washing it.
It's so true, you know, like any other little girl does. So, you know, that's why I find it interesting that it didn't occur to you until you moved out there that was even something that you had in you. Not that I think it's wrong,
And honestly, so even then, when it was finally a question that I was starting to ask myself and trying to find answers to, it was still really, really scary, because I was 6'2", 220 pounds. And I'm now 5'11", 160 pounds.
Which I think is amazing that estrogen made her shrunk her shoe size too.
I went from a men's 14 to a women's 12, which is like 4 shoe sizes.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, you mentioned counseling before. You had to go through counseling before they would put you on hormone therapy, right? Or is that something you chose to do?
No, well, so they actually ended up changing the laws pretty much right after I started HRT.
Mm-hmm. What is HRT?
Hormone replacement therapy.
Thank you.
So, the place I went to, it wasn't quite as required to have, like, seen a therapist for an extended period of time. This was something that was definitely necessary before, like, you can have any procedures done or anything like that to do more permanent changes. You need to have these things done, like changing your gender marker on your license or your name or any of that fun stuff. Okay. You need to have spoken to therapists and typically lived as a woman or your desired gender for X number of months, and I don't remember what all of that is in the state of California.
Interesting.
I have no clue what it is in Florida.
So are you going to change your gender marker on your license and all of that jazz?
Oh, yeah. I have all the paperwork for that done. I just haven't done it yet.
Okay, now another interesting thing when she was still Adam was she was married to a woman for 7 years. So how was that? How was she when you decided to, like, how was that? How did you have that conversation?
Honestly, so I came home from work and I sat in the car and cried for probably an hour before I finally mustered up the courage to go in and tell her. And that was a really difficult conversation.
I'm sure.
Cried a whole bunch more. And she handled the news pretty well. She took a day or two to really come to terms with things, and but she was supportive of me finding me and becoming the real me.
That's good. Now, how long from the time you decided you wanted to be a woman until you started taking your medication, your estrogen and whatnot?
Probably 3 or 4 months, something like that.
Okay, so you decided this is what you wanted to do. It took 3 months, and that was what, research and
well, I'd already been doing a huge amount of research because this is how I do. Whenever I
do the same thing.
whenever I'm trying to understand something new or like really anything, I dive into it as much as I can and learn everything I can. So by the time I went and talked to my wife at the time, I already knew all of the answers to all of the questions she had. So it was mostly just like getting to see a doctor, and I guess actually there was a period of time in between. I think I did have to talk to a therapist before they would let me start hormones.
And how soon after starting, what hormones did you start on?
I started on 2 milligrams of estradiol taken orally, and I want to say 100 milligrams of spironolactone, which is an anti-androgen that blocks testosterone.
Okay. And how long after you started taking it did you start noticing changes in your body?
Finally noticing things like probably a month to 2 months.
A month to 2 months. That's not bad.
Well, boobs were the first thing to notice.
Oh, very cool.
Because everything else you can kind of convince yourself, like, hey, my face is changing, my skin is changing, and all of that is kind of debatable and whether or not it's actually happening, and you can stand there and argue with yourself in the bathroom that it actually happened and is changing, but who knows if it actually is. Boobs are undeniable.
Boobs are undeniable.
Boobs happen, and then you can say, hey, look, boobs. That's cool.
That's cool. This is working. Now, is it okay with you if I put a side-by-side picture of Addison and Adam?
Go for it.
You've got to see the changes in her face. Her facial structure literally changed. It's softened, and she's got these cheekbones for days. Like, I mean...
I like him so much I had someone shove a piece of metal into it.
So gross. She told me how that was done. No.
It's gross, yeah.
No, thank you.
It doesn't hurt anywhere near as bad as you'd think it would.
So what you are living as a woman, you are a woman. That is
I are a woman, yes.
That is who and what you are. Where do you stand sexually?
I am hilariously pansexual. Every time I think I have, like, guessed, or maybe, like, I think I'm leaning towards boys or girls or anything like that, it's just, I realize that is just a waste of time. And the reason I identify as pansexual rather than bisexual is bisexual feels very either or to me, and
it does to me too. And I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go for it.
I said that to her when she was a teenager. We had to talk about sexuality because I think at that point she was leaning more to being gay, and I was being very supportive of that because whatever makes you happy, be who you are, do you boo boo, but do you boo boo, but I said be who you are, but don't. Bisexual just felt like such a cop out to me when. I don't know, she was 17 and I was, 17 plus 6? So, 23. So, I said, pick one, but don't do the cop-out. Don't say, well, I want to have my cake and eat it too. Be who you actually are. And I thought at that time she was trying to come out as gay, and I was trying to help the process along. And unfortunately,
that conversation always kind of bothered me.
I know it did. You told me recently that it did, and I didn't mean that at all. It's not at it wasn't my intention to say what you were feeling is wrong. Unfortunately, that's how it was taken. And we never talked about the conversation after that, so I didn't...
Not until I came out as, like, all of the things.
Right, all of the things.
All of the things.
Now, how did you come out to your family being all of the things?
I emailed y'all.
totally emailed us.
I
3 o'clock
wrote-
in the morning.
I wrote this email, and I revised it and rewrote it, and it sat in my drafts box in my Gmail for probably a month and a half. Before one night, I finally just got super duper drunk and hit send.
I called her the next morning because I saw it at 3 in the morning, and I wrote her back right away and said, you know, I love you and whatever makes you happy. So I waited till the next day, and I called and I said, so how much did you cry after you hit send?
It was a lot. I was crying before I hit send, I was crying as I hit send, and then I cried more after I hit send. And, yeah.
I think it would be more terrifying to tell your family than it would be to tell friends.
Way scarier to tell family than anybody else I've told.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I handled it
y'all are
beautifully. We are terrifying people.
Well, I knew you and Courtney were gonna get it, and I was confident Mom would get it in time, and I knew Dad was gonna struggle with it.
Yes.
And he's still struggling with it.
He is still struggling with it, but we're here at my parents' house now, and this is the first time she's been home in 2 years, and the first time she's been home in that 19 months that she has decided to be trans. They went out to visit her
We don't
and her
really
wife.
decide to be trans.
Decided to start taking the medication.
Decided to transition.
Oh, that too. Okay, fine. I don't know the terminology. I am lame,
This is what we're doing.
Yes, this is true.
This is the point of this.
This is the point of this. So, yeah, our parents went out for a visit to San Francisco, and it was literally the next week.
I started hormones the week after they left.
after.
This wasn't something I was waiting on. It's not like I was waiting for them to leave to start HRT. That's just when
it happened to be. That's
Yeah.
funny. That's funny. So, you know, and she's transitioning just very boldly. So we've got
Loudly and aggressively.
So we've got the hair and we've got the piercings and we've got all the, you know, being who she is and owning who she is and not being apologetic for who she is. And I think it's great.
Going through puberty very loudly at 30.
Okay, that too. But yeah, so our dad walks in and just kind of does an up and down, and you know, I think it kind of took his breath away a little bit, like, wow, that is so different. Like,
Well,
again, I'm gonna post a picture of Addison and Adam right here.
The last person he saw me as was that 6'2", 220-pound dude.
Yeah.
I don't look like that person even a tiny bit anymore.
I mean, it's unrecognizable. And like her friend Tyler kept saying last night, it's surreal. He must have said surreal 50 times, you know, but it is.
This was both before and after he grabbed my boobs.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, but that has to happen.
Oh, God, yeah.
I did too.
Well, come on.
Come on.
Like, I knew that was going to happen. I know Courtney's going to grab him when she
for
sees
sure.
me too.
For sure.
I'm a little shocked that Mom hasn't tried yet.
I don't know.
Actually,
Mom just doesn't know whether to shit or go
That's a
blind
good
right
point.
now.
This is also a good point.
But I think things got easier that first night that Addison was here because they share a love of Scotch and cribbage. And Scotch and cribbage happened. So I think that opened up the lines of communication. So I think Dad is doing as well as can be expected, don't you?
He's doing pretty well.
I think he's doing okay, you know?
It is nowhere near as bad as I was prepared for.
I'm so glad. That's what I said in I did a Get Ready With Me video the day we were picking you up, and I said I'm hoping her worst fears are just that, just fears.
Well,
and not anything that will come to fruition.
And I always make it a point to expect or prepare for the absolute worst case scenario, knowing definitively that that isn't going to happen.
That's not likely to happen, yeah. Well, I'm glad that so far it's going so well. Okay, so what have you noticed is different living as a man versus living as a woman in today's society?
So I think one of the most glaring changes, so I recently got laid off from Samsung, not because of this or anything, but it did happen.
Yeah.
The most startlingly different thing is the way job hunting works. So as Adam, I would have probably gotten a couple dozen actual job offers at this point. As Addison, it has been difficult to get people to write back to me.
Which is, you know, we talk about how it is being a woman in the working world today and how we feel put upon and nobody notices us and we are passed over and the glass ceiling and the difference in income. And she is literally feeling this, experiencing this firsthand.
Well, and it's interesting, because as a guy in the working world, you hear about this and you know that this is a thing, but you don't really have any way of appreciating that it's a thing.
Yeah.
So, well, I always consider myself a feminist anyway, but
you always have been, yes, for sure.
You know, when you're even as a male feminist, you think to yourself like, oh well, like I know this is a problem and it's definitely not okay, but it's way better. Than,
but it doesn't.
It's definitely better.
It
it's
doesn't
nowhere near as
affect
bad.
me.
It's nowhere near as bad as people are making it out to be.
Right.
It's really as bad as people are making it out to be.
It's true. It's true. It's very difficult as a woman to find a career because they just assume that you are going to be taking all the time off for kids, whether or not they know kids exist. Kids do not exist in that world.
Kids
right
aren't
now.
a thing that can happen for me accidentally at this point.
Exactly. So, you know, it's not like you're going to bring someone in and train them and then bam, they're going to be gone on maternity leave, or bam, they're going to be calling out every day because one kid has strep and the other one has chickenpox.
There's not a box to check on the application form that says not fertile.
Right, you know, so they make these assumptions about women in the workplace that
No
they don't
uterus.
make about men in the workplace because, of course, it's so common that, you know, a man's going to still go to work if the kid has chickenpox, you know what I mean? But a mom is going to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the biggest reasons why it's harder for women to get gainful employment.
Well, especially at my age.
Exactly, because we're not youngsters anymore.
30-year-old woman's gonna want to pop out a kid soon.
Exactly.
They don't realize that this isn't a thing I do.
Right. So what they're seeing is maternity leave and, you know, sick time, and I'm gonna hire someone, spend all the money training someone for them to pop out a kid and decide to be a stay-at-home mom. And now
Right.
we're out a person and all of that money we spent to train them. Yeah, that's a very valid point.
People also treat you crazy differently.
And it can wear it that way.
Catcalling really is a thing.
Totally.
Holy crap, is that ever
Even
a thing.
as a big girl, I get
My
catcalled.
God, the things that people say to me.
The things that people say that
Are
they
just
think
disgusting.
is okay to say out loud just
Who, like,
floors me.
Would you say that in front of your mom?
Would you
Because,
say
come
that in
on.
front of your mama?
Come on.
No, because when people do that, I'm like, I'm going to call you mama. Give me your
You
mama's
have a
phone
mother.
number.
You have a
Yes.
mother, and you just said that to me.
Yes.
I'm gonna call your mom.
I'm going to call your
I'm
mama.
gonna call your
That
mom
is
and
not
tell her
okay
what you
to
just said to me.
But, I
It's
mean,
just like noises and faces and crap. It's just creepy, gross stuff.
yes.
Straight guys are creepy.
So true.
Straight guys are creepy.
My husband's behind the camera,
Nodding.
nodding his
Yeah.
head. So.
Yeah, we are. As a creepy straight guy, he knows.
As a creepy straight guy, he totally knows. Are there any upsides to being a woman socially?
Free drinks. Yeah. Honestly, yeah, like the free drinks is definitely pretty
Free
cool.
drinks.
I go out with friends often, and I very seldom buy drinks.
That's amazing.
It's pretty freaking cool.
That's amazing.
It's definitely really sexist still, but
that's a positive.
but it's
side
cool.
of it.
It's not sexist, and the feminist inside me is like, we shouldn't be cool with this, but
Free liquor.
free whiskey is free whiskey, so
That's funny.
I'm gonna take advantage of that one.
She still has trouble letting someone hold the door for her.
Most of the time, I just beat people to the door.
Well, it's because you
I have really long legs.
Yes, 12-foot long legs, because God knows my little troll legs can't keep up.
I let people hold the door for me now. That was a weird one to get used to.
I'm sure.
Because even, like, as soon as I could walk, I started running to the door to open the door for
Always
whoever.
such a gentleman.
For
Such a gentleman.
whoever was trying to go through the door. It didn't matter. I still don't care. And I'll
Oh,
hold the
and
door
would stand there forever until the very last person came out the door.
because it's polite.
Yes.
It's still polite. I still do it,
Yes.
but I do let people open the door for me, and that was a difficult one.
And I think that's just ingrained, habit for so many years.
Well, like I go out on a date with a dude, and then he like tries to hold the door for me, and I'm like, oh wait, I'm supposed to let you do that.
I'm supposed to allow that. I'm sorry. Too funny. Okay, what else?
Or do you want to call it for now?
Do you want to call it and go visit
Yeah,
your friends?
yeah, let's do
go
that.